The presentation is Reducing Operating Expenses with Utility Audits. Our expert today is Mark Pasanda. Mark is the founder and president of Utility Audit Solutions, where he draws on his past experience as Vice President, Chief Operations Officer at South Trust Bank Facilities, as a VP at American Federal Bank, and as Project Manager at Extended Stay Hotels. We're excited to have him here today, so welcome. Mark?
I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. I'm excited to talk to you today about reducing operating expenses. So let's go ahead and get started. If you're signed on and you see the first slide, this is just a quick summary of some of the things we're going to be covering today. I know everyone's interested in how can I save or can I save at all via a utility audit. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So is your company likely to save? Well, based on what we've done in the past couple of years, we are finding various forms of savings for 80 to 85% of our clients. That's on utility audits. Those percentages generally are higher on telecom audits. We never guarantee or try to create expectations for any of our clients, but in the case of cell phones, it's very, very unusual that we do not find some kind of savings. Telecom is just much more complex than utility bills, so typically that just results in a lot more opportunities for savings. Next question is, how is a utility bill audit different from an energy audit? Well, with an energy audit, but those types of auditors are actually looking at reducing your usage via more efficient machinery, more efficient appliances, additional insulation, things like that. We have nothing to do with that. We actually look at the utility bills. We go online, we look at customer service records, and we find errors and overcharges and just general inefficiencies in your utility accounts and your telecom accounts. And with the client's permission, we make changes to correct those kinds of issues that will save you money. The next slide, what is the range of savings found? Well, varies depending whether it's utilities or telecom. On utilities, typically that range is somewhere between 2% and 10%. Telecom, 5% to 20%. Although I've had clients, especially on telecom, where we've saved them far more than 20%. In addition to reducing those monthly bills with those ranges of savings, occasionally we're able to procure refunds for our clients based on just typical billing errors that have occurred sometime in the past. The next question, can overcharges or overbilling from past payments be refunded? Absolutely they can. On utilities, the statute of limitations is 36 months. So we can go back as far as 36 months. And if there have been any actual billing errors, we can generally get those errors either refunded or credited back to the client. On telecom, it's a little bit different. Typically, we can't go back that far, but there are some cases that we can. If there are tax issues, things like that, typically those are also refundable up to 36 months. Now, I'm sure one question everyone will have is, how are the actual savings documented? When we find savings, and we invoice you for our portion of those savings. The invoice will show line item by line item a description of what we actually found, what the savings are actually that month, and then what our portion of that savings are going to be. In addition to that, if your savings, particularly on electricity or gas, are usage-based, we will include with that invoice a spreadsheet that shows the exact calculation of how those savings were arrived at. In other words, it'll show what you would have paid before those changes were made, what you're paying on your current month's bill, and of course the difference there is the savings. So it's all documentable. And this next slide is just it's not a, we can only fit so much in on a screen, unfortunately, but it shows a partial invoice. But you'll see under the description that there's a full description of every change that was made. The next slide, what information is needed to conduct the audit. Several things that we need to get started. We have an agreement. It's just a brief one-page agreement with our client. The second thing we have is a client audit sheet, which specifically gathers some information from the client, such as who is authorized at the client company to make any changes to the accounts, who will be our contact at that client company. Something interesting also that's on that form is a section that asks the client to list any issues that they're currently reviewing with any of their utility or the telecom providers. The reason that we ask you to do that is we exclude those from our audit. We're not going to try to take credit for anything that the client is already working on. So we exclude that, and we don't even look at those particular issues. And of course, in addition to the agreement and the client audit sheet, we need copies of the bills. Those can be in hard copies. Those can be in electronic format. Some clients will just scan them excuse me, to a PDF and email them to us. Some clients, in an attempt to go green, say, I don't want to copy anything. You can borrow our original files. Just bring them back when they're done, and we issue them a receipt for those.